Welcome to In the Making, the podcast where entrepreneurial journeys, creative insights, and candid conversations come together. I'm Lauren, a luxury wedding planner and mentor, and business owner with over 8 years in the wedding and events industry. Each week, I'll be sharing honest advice on building and scaling a creative business, pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to thrive in the wedding and events world, and bringing you inspiring stories from industry experts and fellow creatives. So whether you're here to learn, grow, or just feel inspired, you're in the right place. Let's go. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of In the Making podcast. Today you have myself on my own again for another solo episode. And this week I thought we would dive into the topic of working with planners. I get emails fairly frequently from people trying to get on my list and reached out in the DMs and just constantly asked, how can people work with us? And I actually thought it'd just be really helpful to share some insights on what people are doing right, what people are doing wrong, and how you can better market yourself and what things you can be doing to help you work more with planners and gain access to those luxury clients and luxury weddings. So let's kickstart with why you might want to be working with a wedding planner. Now, wedding planners can typically be the gatekeepers to the luxury or high-end clients. Most high-end clients are going to bring someone on to help with their planning, and therefore they are essentially gatekeeping as such. I mean, I don't see myself as a gatekeeper, but I can understand why others in the industry might feel that way. But essentially, our job is to then recommend suppliers onto our clients. So obviously, photographers, florists, and so on are going to want to be networking with planners and getting in on their lists. And I say that with air quotes if you're not watching this and you're listening it, because we don't typically have a actual physical list. So obviously you're going to want to be getting in with those planners as such and being part of their network so that you can gain access to these fantastic clients. Obviously, with working with planners as well, it's going to potentially give you more growth as a business. It's also going to help you work with those bigger budget weddings where potentially you can be charging more and then maybe even working on less weddings. A lot of people get to the point in their business where they want to be doing less quantity and more quality. So by working on higher budget weddings, we can actually take on less and charge a little bit more for what we do. Obviously, that's also going to be based on your experience and your skill set as well. It's not just a case of, right, I'm going to charge this much and do less. We obviously need to make sure it's backed up with experience. Some of the biggest mistakes I see suppliers making when they are trying to network with planners is literally just throwing out the old blanket email. Guys, we know the blanket email, okay? We know when you've copied and pasted and just thrown in the name. We know because we get them all the time, and you get even more red flag points when you haven't even researched our name. Okay, so when a message comes in, it says hi there or hello Bluebird Creative. No, and I will be perfectly honest with you, and this is super harsh, but that email is getting deleted immediately. I'm not going to give you my time if you can't take the time to research my name, because it is literally all across my social media and on my website. And I know I'm not alone in saying that. Every other planner is probably sitting, nodding their head in agreement. So make sure, first of all, you've done your research and you know who you're reaching out to. Don't blanket and copy and paste those emails and those DMs. Okay. Also, when you're reaching out, make sure that your style actually aligns with who you're reaching out to. And I think this is one of the most important things that you need to take away from this episode, is that you have to make sure that what you provide aligns with the style of the planner that you're reaching out to. So, for example, if you are a photographer and your style is very whimsical and a little bit boho, and the types of weddings in your portfolio kind of align with that, and you're reaching out to a planner who is very fashion-led and editorial style, they're not going to say, yes,
great, I'd love to have you on board, because you don't actually match their brand and their style. So have a look at who's your ideal client, who's your target market, and then align that with a planner that actually has the same ideal client, same brand. And if you're not quite there yet, but that's where you want to get, then you need to build your portfolio so that actually when you reach out to them, they can look at your portfolio and go, yes, that absolutely aligns with what we produce, and we would like to continue having conversations. I think that is one of the biggest things I see, is when we get sent a link to somebody's portfolio and they're reaching out to us, and yes, maybe they've used our name and they've done a good email, but then actually they don't fit what we would be presenting to our clients. Sometimes it's not even a case of a mismatch, but you can just see that they're really quite new and they're still building their portfolio, and it's not really hitting the level and experience that we need from our teams. That's really important as well. You need to take your time and actually make your way up in the industry. You cannot get there overnight. I think with all the guests that I have on this podcast, one of the important takeaways is that everybody's journey actually happens over time. Nobody is an overnight success, and you need to remember that when you're building your business. So don't expect to just come in, enter the industry, and suddenly be working on these luxury weddings. You need to build that experience. You need to build that portfolio, because a planner is not going to put somebody inexperienced on a high budget luxury wedding that is, multifaceted, multi-dayed, with loads of moving parts. You need somebody that understands how the wedding day or the event is actually going to be working, as well as being experienced in actually what they do, whether that's a photographer, florist, etc., etc. So just remember that as well. You need to take your steps up slowly and gradually, and then absolutely, when you're ready to make that move to going into that high end or luxury market, working with planners, that then go for it, as long as you've got those foundations in place and you've started to make your way up. When you're reaching out as well, don't make it all about yourself. I get these emails come in and it's literally, I'm this is what we do, we're all about this, blah, 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 blah. That's really lovely. Okay. And I'm really happy for you. This is coming across very mean, isn't it? But at the end of the day, I want to know, what can you do for me and what can you do for my clients? Because it's all well and good that you do this and you do that, but what can you do for us? Because we get emails all the time, honestly, daily, and having to sort of sift through, it's actually, I mean, that's what Nat does. That's what Nat does for me. That's one of the many jobs that Nat does for me. But I actually needed to hand that over to somebody because I couldn't get back to all these cold emails. So you need to stand out. We need to know what you're going to do for us. What are you going to do for our clients? Don't just make it all about yourselves. We need value. We need to understand the collaboration that you're going to bring. And then, just obviously, I'm going to say it, but it doesn't really need to be said. Don't be inconsistent and don't be unprofessional. Just make sure that everything is coming across on brand and with a real nice professional element added on. So those are kind of the mistakes that we see, and there may be others, I'm sure, but those are kind of the key mistakes that we do see when people are reaching out to planners and trying to sort of, like, as I say, get on their list. There are no lists, guys. There are no lists. How to do it well. Let's talk about let's bring some positives to the table here. How can we do that well? So, as I mentioned before, it's do your research. Research the brand, research the planner, research the type of clientele, the positioning in the market. Make sure you're actually reaching out to the right people. One of the things I would say is you don't need to get in with every planner. You just don't need to be doing that. If you found 3 to 5 planners that really align with your brand and the type of weddings that you want to be working on and the type of clients that you want to be working with, then just focus your energy and your intention into building relationships with those planners. It doesn't have to be everyone. And notice how I say building relationships, because that is essentially what it's about. It is a long game and it is a long burn. We don't just put someone random onto a job. I will put people onto a job or recommend them. It doesn't mean you're going to get the job. I will recommend you to a client because we've built a relationship over time, because I've seen proof of how you work. I've seen proof of who you are. I like you as a person because that is actually really important to me, because I've got to work with you, whether it's on admin, if you're slow to reply, if I'm having to chase you, that's not ideal for me as a planner. So I want somebody that I know is going to make my life easier. That's also a pleasure to work with in the process and the lead up, but also on the day and across the event days themselves. I need to know that we've just got a good synergy and a good energy between us, because that's really, really key. And then obviously producing amazing work, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're the bar company, whether you are the florist, the photographer, the videographer, the stationer. I need to know that the goods that you're going to produce align with the standard that we like to hold ourselves to. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the same standards as us, the same quality, the same professionalism, it actually comes back on us, which is why we're very selective with who we will recommend. If somebody just has a bit of a funky vibe on the day, it actually still comes back to us as the planner. So you have to remember that. You need to hold yourself accountable to the same standards that we hold ourselves accountable to. You also, so as I said, you want to be building relationships. It's all about the relationship. And actually, I would say it's about building the relationship before you try and pitch to the planner. Whether it's a case of just friendly DMs, liking posts, commenting on stories, and just building that relationship. So they're kind of seeing you in their periphery, and maybe you're having conversations in the DMs, but it's just loose, and you're commenting. We see you, when you're doing that. We see, and if it's frequent and it's consistent, then we see you. And then perhaps you might say, let's go for a coffee, let's meet. Or maybe you end up at the same networking event, and you can then sort of pick up the conversation a little bit more on a professional basis and just build on that relationship. But just remember, it's not going to happen overnight. And it really is. I think the key takeaway here is relationship. You need to be building on that over time. You want to be offering your services, I would say, outside of a client setting. So if there's an opportunity to work with a planner, whether it's on a shoot or, I don't know, a PR opportunity, then that is a great way to showcase what you can do without there being the pressure of a client. And for me as a planner, when we do style shoots, which isn't as often as it used to be when we were starting up the business, but that was always a great opportunity for me to trial new planners that I've kind of new suppliers that I have kind of had my eye on for a while and would like to potentially work with in the future. But I want to work with them on a shoot because I can kind of see how their creativity works, how we work together, how our energy is, what their process is in the background, etc., etc. And then if that goes well, then it's like, okay, that was really good. That was successful. I really enjoyed working with you. I'm going to put you forward to this client because I think you fit their vibe, etc., etc. Or perhaps you get burnt and you've learned a lesson and it hasn't been in a client setting. So definitely consider that. Don't just expect to get recommended to a client immediately. Again, long game, slow burn, guys. Okay. But just stay professional, be concise, and stay consistent. I would say those are some of the most important things that you need to be considering. If you're reaching out to planners that are mismatched, it can actually hold you back. You can be wasting time, wasting energy, and not getting anywhere. You can be building a relationship and building a network, I guess, or relationship with somebody where actually, if they were then to put you forward, and I mean, even if it got to that, and it doesn't align, you've wasted that time. So again, it just goes back to that research and making sure that those brands align, that their clientele aligns with what you want to be working on. If they've got a style that you like, but actually the types of weddings they're working on with the type of people they're working on don't hit what you want to be doing, again, you just need to be looking into that. And I think that comes from conversations and networking. So I would say some of the practical tips that you can take away from this is to review your brand and ask yourself, would the planners that I want to work with see me as a good fit right now? And if you're not sure that there's that alignment right now, but you know that that's where you want to be, then you can work on that. Then you can have a look at it and you can kind of say to yourself, what can I be doing with my marketing? What can I do with my brand to level it up? What sort of jobs do I need to be getting on? Do I need to be doing shoots so that I get to that next level? So that you've then got the portfolio and the experience to then bring to those planners and say, this is what I'm doing. And I would really love the opportunity to do that for you. Obviously, after you've built a relationship with them and started having conversations. So I think that's really important to just do kind of that review of your brand. I would start building a short list of the planners that you genuinely want to work with. And again, it's not about having 10, 15 people. It's just about having the right people that align with you. And then you can start connecting, but it has to be authentically with integrity. I think that is one of the most important things. Don't just spam everybody because we're not here for it. And if that's one of the things that you think, actually, I don't really know where to start with this, I know that that's where I want to get to, but I don't quite know how to realign myself, or I need help reviewing, then that's one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients in my mentoring, is we actually look at their brands. And obviously people will come to me for that because I am a planner. So I can share my knowledge and my insight as to what I'm looking for as a planner and what you could potentially be doing to help bring your brand and your portfolio up to that next level to then be working on those luxury weddings. So there we go, guys. Just a very short little episode for you today, which is hopefully giving you a bit of value, giving you some insight and giving you some tips to just help make those next steps for you guys. And as I said, if this is something that you're interested in doing and you don't really know where to start, then absolutely reach out to me and we can have a chat about doing some mentoring. I hope you found this episode helpful and I look forward to chatting with you guys on the next episode.